So Josh Pate thinks that this is going to be the craziest transfer portal window that we've ever seen. You're going to have something that you've never felt, experienced, and so many things are going to be changed and altered. I think he's wrong, partially. I think what he means to say is this will be the craziest spring transfer portal window you have ever seen. Might I remind you how many quarterbacks moved this offseason? Think about that fact for just a moment. How many quarterbacks are on teams this year where they're expected to start that they were not on last year? Remember, Julian Sayin is at Ohio State. He was recruited in the 2024 cycle to Alabama. Caden Proctor transferred back to Alabama after going to Iowa, starting at Alabama, and then went and kind of, took Iowa's NIL money and then went back to Alabama again. Will Howard from Kansas State to Ohio State. Dylan Gabriel from Oklahoma to Oregon. Riley Leonard from Duke to Notre Dame. Malik Murphy from Texas to Duke. Cam Ward from Washington State to the NFL draft. To the portal, to the NFL draft, to back to the portal, then to Miami. I've only just begun listing the number of quarterbacks. There is no position more singularly impactful that you can get out of the transfer portal than a quarterback. So I think it could be the craziest spring portal window we've seen. His contention is that based on the intel he's heard and coaches he's talked to, and look, I like Josh Pate a lot. He is talking to people higher up far more often than I am. But what he's talking about is a spring portal window that is going to have a lot more starters on the move, but you're not going to see the level of quarterback movement. The number of players that have gone into the transfer portal over the last several years has gone up every year to now it's over 3,200 for this cycle. It might even, I think that was last year's number. And I think that is an insane number to think about. Thousands and thousands and thousands of college football players going to find new homes. But quarterback movement is going to be minimal. But as I talked about on yesterday's show, I don't think it's going to be zero. Most teams by now have got their quarterbacks in place. Does everybody? No. There are quarterback battles all over the country. Whether you're talking about the Group of 5 level, whether you're talking about the Big 10, the Big 12, there are teams that are not certain or could improve their standing with a quarterback. And a guy like a Devin Brown, Lincoln Keenholz, or Aaron Noland, I've seen crazier things happen. One of those guys, there are 5 starting caliber quarterbacks in Ohio State's room. I think at least one will be in the portal by Tuesday. That'll be the craziest announcement because historically, and it's a brief history to be sure, you have not seen starting quarterbacks move in this spring window. You've seen some quarterbacks move, but you haven't seen the volume that you get during the early transfer portal window. And I could go on a whole long rant about how dumb the college football calendar is, and the schedule is just so broken, and it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense for anybody. It doesn't make any sense for coaches. Doesn't make any sense for players. Doesn't make any sense for personnel staff. Doesn't make any sense for fans. Doesn't make any sense for the sport. There's no logic to it whatsoever. But this is the world that you've got. And, another guy that Pate talked about on our show was, Hugh Freeze has talked about, increasing the number of guys that he's got on the defensive line, trying to go out and attack that particular position. Well, those sorts of guys could come available, and maybe we'll see a higher volume. Bear Alexander, by the way, speaking of defensive linemen, he's not in the transfer portal, per his own report. It was circulating that he was going to enter, and then he came out and said, nope, not doing that, staying at USC. Make of that what you will. But certainly, when you look at that transfer portal window opening on Tuesday, you'll have players that don't like where they stand in spring football. But are you going to have a bevy of all conference caliber players? I'd be surprised. I'll come on here and eat crow if I'm wrong. But I would be surprised if you have got legitimate all conference caliber guys just leaving programs here and there. Because at the very least, you're not going to have the quarterbacks figured out. But as spring football plays out, it is certainly difficult to be a coach and not know whether or not this guy is going to stick around or whether or not he's going to put his name in the transfer portal. And I'm sure that several teams will be surprised. But to say by the guys that enter here and there, but are you going to see a mass exodus? Remember what was happening at Alabama when Kalen DeBoer first got on the scene? Nobody was sticking around, right? They had a high school commit in Ryan Williams, who of course later recommitted. He decommitted, and Caleb Downs left, and Seth McLaughlin left, and Caden Proctor left, and they had all sorts of players. Isaiah Bond, he left as well. A lot of guys were departing. Nyblack, the tight end, everybody was leaving Alabama. What major blue blood program is going to have an exodus like that? I can't see that happening. I can see an impact player leaving a school of note. I can see guys departing who, you would think are going to be starters, but actually are going to start somewhere else because they've got a better offer or what have you. This is gut feeling from me. This is pure gut feeling here. But when you look at the number of players that have already moved, and sure, guys like Caden Proctor have shown us that you can move and, think about moving, whether or not he actually thought about moving and whatnot. But, I just crossed up Caden Proctor and Bear Alexander. How about that? Caden Proctor moved and then he removed. Okay, that was crazy. That was wild. Talked about it on the show. Don't like what that means for where the state of our sport is, because you had a university in Iowa that was ready to line up resources and invest and commit to having Proctor be a part of their football program, and then he's able to just double back on him. That's not a healthy sport. That's not a healthy arrangement. That's not something that is conducive to fostering the sort of environments that are best for coaches, players, fans, and the sport writ large. So if you have a guy who can do that, sure, you could have a couple other guys, but what position does Proctor play? Offensive line. Important position. There's no doubt about it. That is an important position. You will never see me underselling the importance of offensive line. But there is not going to be. Here's my prediction. And this differs from the early portal window and why I think there's a difference between what craziness in the spring portal window and what craziness in the winter transfer portal window really means. How many times did you see in that early transfer window a quarterback's name go into the portal and you think, uh-oh, we got a problem, or that school over there, they've got a problem? Probably more than a few. You can think of a lot of different examples where you go, well, that leaves major questions. The impact of a starting caliber quarterback going from one team to a conference foe, or one team to another conference, and helps make that team a contender of sorts. Like, take Oregon, for instance. Can they land a transfer who is singularly as impactful as Dylan Gabriel is going to be for them? Not even close. Not even close. So I think most of the big time transfers have already made their move. And as you go forward in spring, we're going to be covering extensively here on Locked On College Football, because you will see impact players on the move. But will it be as hectic as that initial portal window when it felt like everybody and their mother was in the transfer portal? No, I don't think it will rise to that level. There will be plenty to cover, and we will talk about all the impact players here on Locked On College Football, because there will be some. But craziest transfer portal window that you've ever seen? I have my doubts. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time, and until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.